Chatters, chatties, welcome home for a Great American Chat, a podcast where we chat about great American media. I'm Chad Maurice, and today we are chatting about the sixth and final episode of Destination Heaven. But before that, have you been watching Great American Christmas in July? Oh, I was watching it, and there was a little pop-up that appeared at the bottom of the TV screen that said, a second season of County Rescue is coming to Great American Family next year. So that's pretty exciting. I had a feeling that show would get renewed. It ended on a cliffhanger, so we have to find out what happens when what's-her-name's boyfriend showed up there at the end. So got to find out how she handles all that. So today we are getting into the last episode of Destination Heaven. Hate to see the show come to an end, but all good things must come to an end, right? Of course, maybe it'll get renewed. Who knows? We'll find out. So this episode is titled Role Praying, which is a great play on words. I love that title. It's written by Dean Batali. It's directed by Vance Null. It guest stars Hero Hunter, Ava Torres, Zachary Colmenero, and Kelley Davis. The synopsis says, the friendship of a group of preteen gamers is forever changed when God meets the kids inside their online fantasy-based video game. So let's see. Okay, a dramatic scene starts us off. We see three kids running in the woods and being chased. Their names are Ben, Aiden, and Cassie. Ben is dragging behind. He runs faster to catch up and trips on a rope. Cassie throws the rope into the woods. They are talking about seeing a monster. Ben says, we are running in circles. We need to find the map. Then they hear growling. They turn around and Aiden says, it's the monster. So yeah, the monster's right behind them. So right now at this point, I'm thinking, ooh, this is pretty cool. We got a fantasy episode with a monster. I'm liking this. Aiden says, we need the cloak of invisibility. Oh, and then I realized, okay, they're playing a video game. That's what's going on here. In fact, they're playing a video game called The Castles of Batanka. Just then, Ben says, I gotta go, and he disappears. Cassie says, he just left us here to die. Game over. So then we see Aiden and Cassie sitting in their computer chairs. Aiden says, what happened to Ben? He never quits like that. Then we see Ben is looking out his bedroom window watching his parents argue. He logs back into the game. Aiden and Cassie say, what happened? You just got us killed. He says, sorry, there is some stuff going on. Aiden asks if everything is okay. He says, yeah, my parents have been loud lately. Let's get back in and finish playing the game. Aiden's mom calls him and says, Aiden, it's time for bed. He tells Ben and Cassie he's got to go to bed. Ben says, what are you talking about? It's only 6 o'clock. Cassie says, he lives in the future, remember? Aiden says, a different time zone. So there's some funny lines there. Apparently, Aiden lives on the East Coast and Ben and Cassie live on the West Coast. Aiden's mother tells him to say his prayers before he goes to sleep. So he closes his eyes to pray and is surprised to see God. He says, what's going on? God says, we are in your video game. Aiden says, hey, we are at one of the castles of Batanka. God says, that's right, but I can't tell you where it is because that would be cheating. Aiden says, give me a clue. God says, wouldn't you rather find it on your own? God asks, why didn't you tell Ben about me when you saw that he was struggling? Aiden says, I was afraid of what he might say and how he would react. God asks, do your friends know how much faith you have? He says, no, I don't talk about it. God says, let me show you something. He pulls a blanket out of a chest and throws it over himself and disappears. Aiden yells, that's the cloak of invisibility. God says, that's right. And when you don't tell your friends about me, it's like you're using this cloak to keep me hidden. He says, maybe you could unhide me with your friends and let them know I'm here. So this was a really good scene. I like the metaphor with the cloak and the invisibility thing. That was all really good. So then the three kids are back inside the video game planning their next move. Cassie says, I gotta go. I have an algebra quiz tomorrow. So she logs off. Aiden asks Ben how everything's going. What is happening with your parents? Ben opens up and says they have been fighting all the time. I think they are getting a divorce. Aiden says, I'm sorry. You know what helps me when I'm struggling? I pray. Ben asks, does that work? Aiden says it does. It makes me feel not so alone. It gives me strength. Ben says, I've never tried it. My family isn't religious, and we don't go to church. He asks, how do I do it? Aiden says, just close your eyes and start talking. So he does. And then we see Ben inside the game talking to God. He's at the same castle where Aiden was at. God asks, what did you want to talk to me about? Ben says, my parents. They have been fighting a lot lately. I think they are going to get a divorce, and I don't want that. God says, let me show you something. He picks up a shield and says, this thing protects you from everything. He gives it to Ben. Ben says, hey, I thought it would be heavy. God says, sometimes it can be. He says, I want you to know that I am always here for you, and you can always talk to me, even when things get hard. Then all of a sudden, the shield Ben is holding gets really heavy, and he drops it. Ben says, hey, what happened? I can't hold the shield up. God says, let me help you. He grabs it, and the shield becomes light again. So yeah, a lot of good, more metaphor in this scene, some good metaphors. With the shield representing the burdens that we have and how God can help make them lighter. Really good writing in this episode. Then we hear Ben's mother calling him. She walks into his bedroom and sees him kneeling by the bed and praying. She says, what are you doing? Were you praying? He says, yeah, is that okay? She says, I guess so. She goes on and says, your dad and I need to tell you something. Then we see Ben yelling at God. He says, is this what happens when kids pray to you, their parents get a divorce? God says, I'm sorry for what your parents have decided to do. It's going to be painful for you. He explains that things happen that he doesn't have control over. Ben says, there must be something in this castle that can help. God says, the only thing that can help is knowing that there are other people here for you, like your friends and like me. Ben says, that's supposed to make everything better? God says, no, but it's supposed to make you feel less alone. Ben logs onto his computer to play the game with Cassie and Aiden. Cassie asks if everything is all right because he is really short with them. He says, my parents are getting a divorce. He says, I hope you two never have to go through this. Cassie says, too late. I already did. My parents got a divorce when I was 6. Cassie tells Ben, I will pray for you. Aiden is like, wait a minute, you pray too? Cassie says, yeah, it makes me feel better. How about we say a prayer for Ben? They all close their eyes and begin to pray. God shows up. Cassie asks God to give Ben the strength that he gave her when her parents were splitting up. God says, I will do what I can. They say a prayer. God shows them a rope that is made from one strand. He tells them to pull on it, and it breaks easily. Then he shows them a rope made of 3 strands. He tells them to pull on that one. They do, but they can't break it. He says, the 3 of you can be like this rope. Ben recognizes the rope as the one he tripped over earlier in the game, and God gives them a clue that they can use this rope to defeat the monster. So more good metaphor in this scene. The rope representing the 3 of them and how they are stronger together. Really good. I like it. Then we see them back inside the game, running from the monster. They grab the rope and wrap it around him. They see there's a map on the monster's back, which shows the location of all the castles they've been trying to find. Ben's mom interrupts the game and tells him it's time for dinner. Cassie asks Ben how his mom is doing. He says, not good. She cries all the time. Then we see God inside the game at the castle. He looks up and says, I was hoping you would come. The camera pans up and we see it is Ben's mom. She says, I don't know how to do this, but I saw Ben praying and I thought it might help. God says, how would you like to start? She says, I want to pray for my son. Oh, really good ending. I like this ending. I really liked it when we see God turn and say hello, but we don't know who he's saying hello to. And then we see that it is Ben's mom. Really good reveal. So they did it again. Another good episode. This one's about divorce and the effects that it has on kids. The child actors in this episode did a good job. I liked that they were going in and out of this video game. I thought that was pretty cool. And I liked that God talked to the kids inside the game at one of the castles that they were trying to find. That was nice. I like how they had the set up there with all the props set around, the chests and the shields and everything. So the message of this episode is that when you're experiencing hard times, you are never alone. You have friends and God that you can turn to. So that is a wrap on Destination Heaven. This series is unique. Each episode deals with a different topic. The first episode was about helping people who are less fortunate, not only with money, but with your time. The second episode was about being there for others emotionally. The third episode is about following dreams and dealing with regret. The fourth episode is about the fear of marriage. The fifth episode about the fear of becoming a parent. And this last episode is about divorce. So I liked that each episode featured different guest stars. And some of the actors were familiar faces. So if you haven't seen this series, check it out. I give it a thumbs up. Really good. Now, next month, we got new movies coming to Great American Family. Mr. Manhattan, the Panavega movie, is going to be premiering on Great American Family, the one that's on Great American Pure Flix right now. And some other movies are going to be premiering as well. So I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be fun to live post on X again with other Great American Family fans while watching the movies. You enjoy the rest of Great American Christmas in July, and you keep the faith. Keep smiling. Keep your friends close and keep your Great American Family closer.